Kia ora koutou. Just before I begin, can everyone hear me? Is this a good, okay, wicked. Tell me if you can't, like put your hand up or something. Welcome to Multiethnic Young Leaders' second speaker networking event this year. I'm Marie Isabel Landingen, a Filipino born in Manila, raised in Tamaki Makaurau, and currently based in Kirikiriroa, Hamilton. Very pleased to be visiting to Whanganui-a-Tara today. I have been a member of MYLN since 2021, and have been honored to serve as the project lead for the Rangatahi Leadership Opportunities Database. Most importantly, I have the pleasure tonight and honor of being your moderator for this evening. So please join me as we kick off for our Fireside Chat with a karakia. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa po namu te moana, he huarahi ma tātou I te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa. Huie taikie. The Speaker and Networking Series is designed to hold space for ethnically diverse future leaders to hear from inspiring speakers from a diverse range of backgrounds, industries, and ethnicities. Influential leaders have been invited to share their stories, experiences, and leadership journeys with our members and the wider community of Rangatahi and Aotearoa. We are grateful, thank you Peter for that wonderful introduction, to have KPMG as our generous sponsor of this year's Speaker Networking Series once again. We would like to acknowledge KPMG for their support and investment in multi-ethnic young leaders, our members, and our kaupapa. This evening, we are very, very honored to have Mayor Tory Whanau as our guest speaker. Tory is Wellington City Council's first Wahine Māori mayor. Originally from Patea in South Taranaki, Tory is of Pakakohe and Ngāruahine descent. Tory moved to Wellington as an adult for study, graduated from Victoria University of Wellington, and began working in the financial sector. Tory spent 6 years as the Chief of Staff for the Green Party. Last year, Tory was elected as Mayor of Wellington with a large majority of votes, which, quote, proved to her that it's time for the next generation of leaders. Among many things, as a mayor, Tory has helped reinvent expectations on what mayors look like, and is working to make Wellington a thriving, safe, inclusive, accessible, and climate-friendly city. Awesome work. We encourage everyone tonight to take part in our korero by submitting questions for Tory via Slido. So to participate in this Q&A or to see what other people are asking in the Q&A, please visit slido.com, that's slido.com, and enter the event code for today's event. I'll repeat it a few times. So 3264133. That's 3264133. And one final time for luck, 3264133. Cool. And now, without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Mayor Tory Whanau. Welcome, Mayor Whanau, Tory. Thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us, and it's great to have you here. Kia ora koutou. I have a massive list of questions for you, but we'll start off with one, hopefully an easy one. Please share with us about who you are, where you whakapapa to, and one thing that you wish more people knew about you. So kind of 3 questions. Sorry.
Yeah, that's great. Well, tēnā koutou katoa, ko Pakakoe toku iwi, he uri tēnei no Taranaki, engari I noho ana ahau ki te Whanganui-a-Tara, ko au te koromatua o Pōneke, ko Tory Whanau toku ingoa. It is a pleasure to be here. A huge thank you to this network for inviting me. I'm deeply passionate about these spaces and ensuring that we all get together and talk about leadership. It's incredibly important and very timely. Huge thank you to KPMG for hosting hosting. Really nice to be here, and nice to see you again after meeting your whānau a couple of weeks ago. And of course to mana whenua, of which we would not be here, and just acknowledging them. So that's a little bit about myself. You know, I hail from Taranaki, and I'm a deeply proud Pātea wahine Māori. It's core to who I am, which is all about, I'm proud to be Māori. I'm proud to be from Pātea, which is a small community that looks after each other, cares about the environment, cares about everyone having an affordable home, and treats everyone like whānau. So when I got into the Mayoralty, it was all about whanaungatanga and how do we connect to each other as communities, especially when politics and actually some groups in Wellington, we can be quite divisive, and when you look at cycleways and the fights that go on about with each other and stuff like that. What I'm trying to do, or what I will be doing over the next 10 years, because I intend on being mayor for 9 years, just FYI, is kind of like, can we just put our individual sort of, unless you have accessibility issues and vulnerable and all that, can we put our individual needs aside for a second, and what benefits the community and our planet the most? When it comes to cycleways, yes, I know taking away that car park is a pain in the ass for you, but it's a mitigation for climate change, which will impact our future generation and ensure that they don't have to pay for what we created. So that's going to take a very long time to get the message through. And why I'm here is that for that narrative to change and for those decisions to go through, it's going to take representation and participation in the democratic system to make sure that climate change, things like climate change, stay on the top of the agenda. Yeah, that's essentially why I'm here. I want to empower and encourage more people into local body politics and to central government to become the decision makers. So I'm just going to go off on a tangent here, but because I'm just so passionate about this. So for me, when Jacinda Ardern stood down, and even though, she's Pākehā, so it's a different journey for a lot of us, right? But I still very much appreciated what she gave to women and what she did. She was a values-driven politician, and she was pushed out of Parliament due to the toxic behaviour of those who are afraid of change, who put their needs above everyone else's, and do not think of of the community. And I am deeply angry about it. I'm still angry because what that has done has pushed sexism to the fore, and it's pushed our rights backwards. It has sent us backwards, and I'm furious about it. And I had the opportunity to meet with Helen Clark a couple of weeks ago, and it was a meet and greet about something completely unrelated. But the second I was like, Jacinda Ardern, she was like, I know, and we were just like vibing off each other and being like, oh, how about that time, and it's, so a lot of women worldwide are angry. So it's like, okay, what do we do with that? Because Jacinda Ardern has every right to step down and protect herself and protect her whānau, and she's done that, and I applaud her for it. But now it's time for the rest of us to step up and ensure that the hard work that she has done does not go to waste. It ensures that we remain represented around the table when it comes to lawmaking and at the decision-making table. And that's why I'm here, to encourage people like yourselves. We need you in politics. We need you as part of the legislative process, and I'm here to help guide that for those who are unsure.
Can I just say that was a powerful start?
I'll just calm down. I haven't gotten all hot and flustered over it, so I'm just gonna, yeah.
No, thank you. Wonderful start. We have 12 more questions to go.
Sorry, okay. I'll just keep it a bit shorter.
No. So you're currently the Mayor of Wellington.
Yeah.
Can you share with us your professional journey and how you eventually found yourself in this role?
I grew up in Pātea, and I had a very political koro, Rongotu Pātea Kahu. He was an activist, and he was heavily into politics. So he was always kind of like trying to influence me as a child. I didn't know what he was up to. I was just like, my koro's such a nerd, and then I was sent to boarding school, and it was just sort of always there. So I'd kind of always had it in me to be a community leader. I didn't know what that looked like at the time. I thought Mayor of Pātea would be quite cool. And went to uni, randomly got into film. you know, and because we had a creative side to our family as well, and my kora was like, yeah, okay, that's okay, that'll do, because also I failed politics. I got like D's in all my papers, so I was just like, okay, so politics is off the cards for me because I am not good at it. And then because the film industry got really tough in 2008, I ended up moving into marketing in the financial industry and spent about 10 years working as a marketer, deeply unsatisfying. It was not great, but it was very corporate, which is fine if that's what you want, you know. I feel like I've just offended some people in the crowd. Sorry, that's not what I meant, sorry. It's just that this was not what the intention was for me to be doing. So I got started getting a bit fired up, and I was like, what do I need to be doing? Then my dream job was like basically a marketing role with the Green Party came up, which was so unlikely for me to get given I'd failed politics. But I thought I'd give it a go, and, you know, felt like fate. Got the job, within 2 years was promoted to chief of staff because of that passion and that wanting to serve the people. I wasn't necessarily skilled at it, but I think if you have the passion and you have the mentors and you have the support, you know, it will come. And I was at Parliament for about 9 years, and I loved it, but it is deeply, it takes a lot, and it can be a bit toxic at times, so I thought I'd take a break. I was like, I think I'm done with politics, I'm going to leave. 2 weeks later, I'm actually not done. I'm going to run for mayor. And that kicked off a year of campaigning, and then thankfully, yeah, I got it.
Well done, well done. I'm quite curious. Did the 10-year-old version of you ever imagine being where you are now?
No. The 10-year-old version imagined that, again, that I would be, because I love people and I was good with people, that I would be doing a community leadership role of some sort. I always kind of thought maybe I'd end up working for like Women's Refuge, being like the CEO of Women's Refuge was a dream outcome for me, and actually that might be what's next, right? But no. Mayor of Wellington is quite wild. Yeah.
Living the wildlife.
Yeah.
So how would you define leadership, so this concept of leadership, and how has this definition changed for you over time?
I think being a good leader is, and I think that's why when people ask me, they're like, do you like being the mayor? Like, is it so wild? For me, being the mayor feels just like normal. Like, this is just, I don't see that hierarchy bit at all, because for me, it's about leading from the front and just bringing everyone along with you. Like, I don't tell people what to do. I try to educate and empower and try to lead them towards a decision. It's hard to explain, but it's just, I've never been a person about hierarchy. It's more about how do you empower and drive communities to take the same journey as you. You don't direct, you don't tell, you empower and you convince, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. Do you think that your personal identity or the community that you grew up in or the many that you've grown up in have helped shape that view?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I want to do in politics as well is kind of like just make it a little bit more genuine, because I've seen, you know, my role was working with MPs and, you know, seeing the political theatre of it all and seeing them perform and saying the perfect line. And I at the time, it was my job to make sure that they did that, but it felt so disingenuous. And I remember as I ran for mayor, I was like, well, I have to do the same thing, you know, I have to just perform, read a script. But as I started reading my first speech, like to launch my campaign, I thought, I don't like this. This feels unnatural, this doesn't feel real. So I just kind of put it aside and just started being like, so I thought I was going to be like Michelle Obama. I'm so perfect, you know, and she is, like, she's perfect, and she's being genuine. But it's not my job to be like her. It's my job to just be myself. So I kind of put that aside and just started being, I'm actually more of a clown than this elegant woman. I'm actually just like a bit silly. So I got my sassy side out and just started cracking jokes, and I was just like, you know, I'm running for mayor, holla, you know, and I think trying to maintain that throughout the campaign is what brought people on board. And I got that from my childhood of just like stop being a pretender, chill out, just be yourself, sense of humour, let's just have a laugh. Yeah.
What was your first leadership opportunity? So this can be like a leadership role at school, at the home, in the community, at work. And how has that experience shaped you or your professional career?
I was actually head girl at Aotearoa High School. And what actually happened was, so unfortunately Aotearoa High School is such a small school that a lot of the education was done by correspondence, and unfortunately that doesn't work for me. So halfway through, the head girl actually quit school, and because I was like, this is not working, I'm not going to waste the rest of the year doing this, so I'm going to work for the rest of the year and just redo my seventh form again, which is what I did at a completely different high school. So that experience of like, oh shame, you know, the head girl is going to quit school, that's so embarrassing. Actually, it really wasn't. I was like, well, no, it's not working for me. There's no perfect journey to becoming a leader. I just used that to, you know, learn from it, not be ashamed, because we all have different circumstances and there is no perfect way to get where you want. And I had many like events like that over my leadership journey, having to do seventh form, which I think is year 13, having to do it twice, failing politics, standing for student council at Vic Uni and coming last. You know, like you would think I would get the hint and go, maybe don't stand for mayor, but no, if it's something that doesn't go away, if it's something that sits with you and you're so passionate about it, just let the failure inform what you should do next time.
Great advice, thank you. So today at MYLN, we recognise that not all young people in New Zealand have equal access to leadership opportunities, and that's a key foundation for the Rangatahi Leadership Opportunities Database project, which today celebrates 1 year since its official launch, by the way. In your own experience as a Wahine Māori, did you observe or encounter any of your own barriers or ceilings in your own experiences?
Yep. So to this day, you know, I still, even as mayor, just experience, you know, real casual, subtle racism, but a lot of sexism, a lot of it. And so this is Damon over here. He's sexist. No, that's not what I mean, sorry. So he manages my social media, and he has to see some of the comments sometimes, but like, you know, I'm the mayor, and you have guys still sliding into my DMs being like, you're the hottest mayor. Oh my God, can we hook up? Who does that? You know, like, so it's just, you know, like you would never, who's going to do that to John Key, you know, or Christopher Luxon? No one. Well, I mean, for, you know, lots of reasons, but it just, you know, female politicians just get treated differently. So sexism, absolutely. It's probably at least a weekly occurrence. With racism, it's just this real lack of understanding, and I wouldn't call it or more ignorance. So I'm really proud of our council because we have an agreement with mana whenua. So it's a tākai here, which means that they get representatives at the council table, they get votes. We basically check in with them before we make big decisions. And we have a couple of councillors who are just like, well, why should Maoris get all these special rights? And I'm just like, oh, have you read the treaty? Do you know what that is? You know, well, why should I have to read that? You know, and it's frustrating. And I have to put it down to their, you know, their age and background and be a little bit sensitive to it, but it's deeply frustrating.
We've had quite a few questions come through about this sort of topic. How did you respond to these? And I guess, how do you think, for us emerging leaders, how do you think we could respond?
I think, unfortunately, as the mayor, I have to be quite diplomatic about such things. So when that comes up, I'll kind of like take that person aside and go, oh, look, councillor, or look, MP, here's why we do this. Like I'll just go into education mode, and your comments might come off as offensive because of blah. If that comes up again, I'm going to have to pull you up on it. So I do give them a chance, just to give them the benefit of the doubt of their ignorance, and it usually does have quite a positive response. It won't always, and you just have to let those ones go and ignore it, because some people won't change, and it just adds to your anxiety. Not worth it.
This leads quite well into our next question. Leadership itself can be quite challenging, confusing, or sometimes even a lonely experience. Have mentors or communities played a role in your leadership journey today? I think you mentioned this before.
Yep. So I think I would find this job very difficult if I didn't have mentors. So I'm lucky to have 3 previous mayors who mentor me and, want me to succeed. I have an ex-Prime Minister who's offered to mentor me. So for what I need is like a network of women. That's what gives me life, that's what gives me energy, and that's what I'm building around me. And I think without it, for instance, like I'm going to get real honest, because I think it's important to know about these experiences. Last week I didn't pull on any of my networks, and I was going through a really tough week with council decisions, and I just tried to do it on my own, and I ended up crying like 3 times in my office. I ended up yelling at people. I was a painful person to be around, Damon?
You were such a delight.
I was just real like scratchy and just not pleasant, and it's because I hadn't reached out for help. And then this woman's network, one just happened to check in and go, "Are you okay?" Because I think they saw me on the news and were just like, "Oh, she ain't doing her best," So they checked in, and they've put together like a care package for me. Another woman went into my office and put in a lavender diffuser and some flowers, and that has completely chilled me out. So whether it's political advice, leadership advice, or just care, it's deeply important, and I think I wouldn't survive a term without it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. In your journey being a leader, have you had any regrets? And if so, what would you do differently?
Nah. I don't think I do. Oh. And you learn from your mistakes, right? I think over the years, I've as a manager, as a leader, I've had to performance manage people or punish people, and there are certainly more empathetic ways I could have done that. I think I've hurt people as a result because I didn't do it properly, but I've learned from that and would never do it again. So I think, there are those really hard things that you have to do as a manager and as a leader, and you have to self-improve. Yeah.
What is your purpose, and how do you lead with this purpose in your current role?
So for me, I just like to think of myself as just kind of like setting the foundation for the future. So the stuff that I want is going to take decades to actually implement. So climate resilience, more housing, an affordable city, and all of that good stuff. But if I can set the foundation and let it grow, and then empower the next generation of leaders to continue that work, that's what I want to achieve. So it's this growth thing. It's not about me. I'm not the person who's going to change the world. I'm not, because it's going to take so much time. I want to kick it off.
And what makes you hopeful about the future of diversity, equity, and inclusion in Aotearoa? And on the other hand, what makes you worried?
So I feel like it's our next generation, and a little bit mine. So I'm a millennial, but when you think about, is it Gen Z, Gen X, the next generation, are so much more empathetic and open and diverse and very welcoming of different identities, and I have so much hope for the future and humanity because of that, because we're pushing up against the old guard with those old ideas. We're gonna in many ways just sort of let that grow. I was gonna say die out, but that's really inappropriate, but just let that go and then our diverse views become the norm. I've actually lost track of the question.
What makes you hopeful or worried about that?
So that's what makes me hopeful, is that generation, and that I think, look, we've got this. It's just going to take some time. I'm worried about, at the moment, when you think about the political environment and what happened to Jacinda, there's a platform and there's a voice for really unhealthy and toxic views. What I don't want is for that to impact the path that the next generation are on. And so I feel like it's my responsibility to help with that, because I've got experience and I've built a thick skin through Parliament. And yes, even though I just admitted to crying last week, I'm still a pretty tough person, and it's up to me to make it safer for the next generation. And I'm just so more than willing and happy to do that. And I'm trying to call on my fellow sisters, like, this is what we have to do. And someone like, in this age of trying to succeed and be really successful and being the top of your game, what I've had to settle with is, putting my ego aside and being like, well, no, again, it's not about me, it's not about my success. How can me as one person empower 100 women? Because 100 women is better than one. And so we just sort of, again, it's just all part of that growth journey.
Actually, that feeds in quite well with the question we just got about a few minutes ago. Leaders like you inspire by just having a seat. How do common women like me support the other women? Although we are passionate, we might not have the opportunity.
I think, like, for me, even just sitting here, and, so I talk at things where people are not like me, right? And I can see them zoning out. They don't care what I have to say. And, and that kind of bums me out. It does. And I'm here, and I'm looking at all of you, and you're engaged. That gives me, it makes me feel good. It's like, okay, so what I'm saying about us has value. It means that it's important. It means I'm on the right track. And I found my people. So I think, if there's another person like yourself, we just have to visibly show that we're supportive. The nods, the smiles, is just like, that has so much impact on me right now. So if we're doing that to other women as well, like, this is just what we need to keep doing.
And similarly, how do you keep yourself safe, or how do we keep each other safe in these spaces which can be quite combative, or they can, uphold those quite extreme ideologies? How can we keep ourselves safe?
And that's something that I don't have the answer to that yet, and it's something that I'm wanting to work on over the next year. And I want to give a shout out to the guys who are in this room as well. I think it's so cool that you're here and you're listening and you're providing a space for us to speak, and you're part of this community. So huge thank you for being here. It's appreciated. I think in terms of making a safe space, this is a safe space, and it's encouraging this, and it's leaders like myself coming to this and sharing experiences and saying, you've got this, I'm here for you. And also what I want to do is sharing those real experiences of being unsafe and being vulnerable, so that that, hey, this does happen and it's okay and your feelings are valid. That's why we have to come together and talk about it. We have to talk about it and as a result, we become stronger on combating it. It's also developing allies. So, sometimes I'm just too exhausted to call things out, when I hear something, but when my fellow Pākehā male calls it out, it's awesome. It's really awesome. So allies are a big deal.
We're coming to the end of this, so if you do have any last questions, please upvote.
You can put your hand up too.
Yeah, that too. I'm quite fond of this question, as many people know here that I'm a workaholic. Throughout your career, especially now as mayor, how do you manage your work-life balance? Hopeful, nice.
I'm actively working on it at the moment. I find the role of mayor so overwhelming and quite energy taxing that I honestly, any spare time I get, I go home. I go home and cuddle my dog and watch Netflix. I don't think that's healthy long term, but it's what I need for now, and it's really hard. I won't lie. Like, becoming a public figure, becoming a public politician is very difficult. So you have to become comfortable with the fact that your personal life, it goes. It really does. Like, I walk on the street now, and you know, it's nice when people like just look at me and smile. It's really lovely. But one was just like, "Stop cancelling the buses, Tory," and I was like, it's actually regional council, but whatever. You know, it's taxing. It's really taxing. So it's a commitment, but one I wouldn't give up, because it's, you know, the work that I get to do is just so worth it. I do miss my personal life. I won't lie.
What's your favourite thing about living in Whanau?
I like how, I do think, you know, Wellington City, you know, has been underinvested in and all of that stuff for a long time. And I think because it's been run by the old guard, right, who don't want to change things, who don't want to invest money in creative things. They only want to invest in infrastructure. And that's, you know, that's why we've got a Courtney Place that's looking real average at the moment. But what excites me is that at its heart, it's actually a really like funky, sort of diverse and quirky city. We just need to keep investing in the arts and things like that to bring it, to really make it thrive. And what I keep trying to, like, you're going to hear a narrative over the next wee while that the books for council are real tight, and they are, like, you know, we real broke. But there are funding tools that allow us to still keep investing over the next 10 years. And you're going to hear people who go, you know, let's just only spend money on pipes, you know, we can't make buildings really pretty and art, that's just pretty stuff. But actually, that's the shopfront stuff that impacts people's mental health, it impacts tourism, it impacts pride. So my view is, yes, infrastructure is at the top, and cycleways, in my view, is infrastructure. But we still have to invest in all of those community initiatives that make us feel proud to be here. And I think the old guard are struggling with that, you know, with that view. But I like to say, well, I won a huge majority, so I'ma do it.
I think we're coming to the end. Do we have any questions from the floor? Anyone? Oh,
we've got two over there.
Okay, we'll have the two here. Yep.
How do you balance being within Whanau-a-Tara with, like, I guess being Tūturu and like true to Māori values that can be in conflict?
Oh my God, yeah. It's hard.
I have that struggle, and so I
right.
understand how you do it.
So what I always kind of go back to my values and my campaign, and go, what is it that I actually promised? And so when it comes to say Māoridom, and you know, I've always been really loud and proud about te ao Māori, co-governance, mana whenua having equal rights. And so because I've made that promise, I will never compromise on them. So I think the strongest leaders, yes, we have to try to make it work for, in a democracy, yes, you have to consider the other view and actually take that into consideration. But when the decision is actually yours and when you have influence, never compromise on your values. I am going through that with, I've never had a problem yet when it comes to Māoritanga, and I'm so relieved. And actually, I don't think that I will, because that's non-negotiable for me. But I am having it a bit with the environment. Like, for instance, we're about to approve a cycleway in Thorndon tomorrow. And of course, yeah, I went hard. And I was like, let's go faster. But look, I've heard a lot of feedback from the Thorndon community. They don't want it. And I've heard some, you know, like quite emotionally so, and I really get that. So I've found the last week, considering my vote on the matter, a struggle and stressful, because it's like, I don't want those who are older or have accessibility issues to struggle because this cycleway might be in the way of their property. And it's been a bit of a mind thing, right? And then, so today, at the end of the day, and I've had all these different councillors giving me their different views about what I should do. They'll just like compromise, you know, don't push through the cycleway on that particular street, and then we're all good. And I almost considered it, you know. I was just like, yeah, I should just listen to the community because that's actually my job. But it's like, actually, no, I campaigned on cycleways. I made a promise because in the end that impacts climate change and I have to stick to that. My being democratic is considering the feedback and thinking about, can we find another way through? Will delaying the cycleway by 2 years help this? Actually, it wouldn't have, because it's not going to change their mind. They just don't want the cycleway, and I feel really bad about it, I do. But again, it's infrastructure, and we have to bring down our emissions. But yeah, that was a struggle like 2 hours ago. Yeah. And I almost caved, you know. How embarrassing. But I won't. And I feel good about that. But I would apply that same sort of, you know, to my other values. So just stay strong and stick to what you believe in.
Kia ora, my name is Oscar. I'm super keen to be here. Really interesting kōrero. I had a question about climate change, and I guess it relates to infrastructure as well. And I don't know, I guess I was also pretty keen to hear your kind of blue sky ideas.
Yeah.
What you want to do for that. But like as we build up our infrastructure and as we renovate our infrastructure, like what do you see as keeping climate change in mind as part of that?
So what we're trying to do at the moment is develop the long-term plan, which basically dictates our direction for the next 10 years. And for me, kind of just climate change is just part of the whole foundation, because it has to be. Not all councillors will vote for that, but that's what I'm trying to push through. At the very least, it's one of our top 5 priorities in how we manage the city. The other priority is how we deal with mana whenua and, you know, and te ao Māori. Those are the 2 that I'll push hard for. In terms of what that looks like in terms of delivery. So there are kind of like 3 big things, or 2 big things. So there's the whole mitigation piece, and I see that being done effectively through cycleway network and public transport. And so that's why I've been a big advocate of Let's Get Welly Moving, because in the end, you know, in walkable streets brings down emissions. Increasing more kind of green spaces and nature throughout the city. So we have a goal to like plant, I think it's like 3 million trees through the city. Good stuff. And protecting biodiversity, really important. But the really important part, which I think is going to be really difficult and very expensive and it's more unexpected, is of course adaptation. So we've just launched a strategy on this and it's going through community consultation. We were having to have those serious conversations with, say, Makara Beach about managed retreat. I think that's going to be very hard for our communities and it's going to hit some people real hard. We can't promise that we can compensate people who lose their properties in upcoming disasters. So, but what I feel heartened by that is that even the most right of councillors are like, oh yeah, adaptation, that's a thing. And I'm like, what? You agree it exists? So, but in their view, they're like, but cycleway isn't really going to help, you know. So, but that's why it's up to the rest of us to just keep pushing hard and going. It's mitigation. We have to push it through.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to close off the questions and start to wrap us up. Finally, very, very last question. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience? Or any key points you'd like for the audience to take away from this kōrero?
I think, well, and something that's surprised me the most, know that even while it's not visible and present at the time, there are people who want you to succeed, and you personally. People just won't know until you ask them, or like they're waiting for you to ask. So know that they exist. Some of us leaders need to get better at making that really obvious and giving the opportunity and platform and networks and coming to things like this to make it really obvious. But there are people who want you to succeed. And I think in terms of being successful, and I've been across a lot of industries now and a lot of politicians, and in my view, like I feel I've become successful because I've been true to myself. I've been genuine and honest about my experiences. I haven't lied. You know, when people ask me if I take drugs, I'll say, yep. You know, I'll just stop there. You know, you've got to be real about that sort of stuff. So be real, be genuine. But when it comes to success, as long as your heart is in the right place, the people and planet are the most important things. And what we're doing has to contribute to that. And that's what will make you successful.
Thank you so much. That's it for our questions, but I'll wrap us up with a little more words. Thank you so much, Tory, for sharing your leadership journey and your valuable insights with us tonight. I'm going to go home and be reflecting on this for a while. I'm sure everyone in the audience will be much the same and has taken away something valuable from what you've shared with us. We would like to remind everyone that our kaupapa at Multiethnic Young Leaders is to build Aotearoa New Zealand's pipeline of diverse, inclusive, purpose-driven future leaders across business, government, and community sectors. We hope that tonight's event has been a step in that direction. And we'd like to thank again our sponsor, KPMG, for their support in making tonight's event possible. And we are grateful for KPMG's investment in our mahi, members, and our kaupapa. And finally, a huge thank you to everyone present for attending this session. We unfortunately couldn't cover all the questions in the audience today, but really appreciate your active participation. Tory did mention she skipped out all her plans just to hang out with us, so she'll have more time to answer your questions. Yeah, I cancelled on another event
so that I can hang out, so you know.
So please bring more questions. And please don't hesitate to take advantage of this opportunity to meet the people around you as well. The people who've decided to take time from their, what day is it today? Wednesday. Wednesday to come out and talk about this stuff. They're probably pretty cool. Say hi to the people next to you. And if you haven't already, be sure to join Multiethnic Young Leaders and stay informed about our coming events and opportunities. And to formally conclude, please join me as we close with the closing karakia. Po hihiri, po rarama, po e te whakaro, po te tangata, po te aroha, te po e here nei I a tātou, mori ora ki a tātou, humie, huie, tai kie. Thank you all for coming and have a great evening. Ka kite.
Ka kite. One more bit of advice that I forgot, sorry. So, especially if you're doing well and you're doing it for the right reasons, you will have haters. You'll have haters. I have so many. Like, I have legit lots. But that reflects on them. It has nothing to do with what you're doing. In fact, if you've got haters, it probably means you're doing the right thing. So just let that slide and just ignore it and move on.